Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about films from my childhood, and I'm struck by how well I remember them. Films released during the Disney Renaissance have a timeless quality that gives me comfort. Indian films released during the 90s and early 2000s feel the same way to me. I think they're nostalgic and highly entertaining even now. And I was curious if any of you felt this way. If you think back to when you were little, what films did you watch over and over again? And why do you think that is? Filmmakers around the world have struggled to define children's entertainment. Western scholars have said, this is a complicated issue that involves a range of personal, pedagogical, critical, textual, institutional, cultural, and imperial points of view. Is entertainment defined by who watches it, who it's marketed toward, or something else? Does it matter who it features, what it features, and who distributes it? Indian cinema poses unique challenges when it comes to categorizing films. Our films are constantly evolving, and their genres can be quite fluid.
Being an Indian, we grew up with films, right? Whether we were toddlers, whether we were young adults, or now that we are having families of our own, films and cinema has always been the thing. Going to the theater or now, coming to the small screen of OTT, it's always something that people have enjoyed. So one thing to find was that there was no direct scholarship on children's cinema in India, like none at all. And there isn't still actually.
In this video, I'll discuss a new way of defining children's films that's much better than simply calling them family films. India produces the highest number of films in the world every year and contains the greatest population of children under age 15. After India gained independence from British rule in 1947, Prime Minister Nehru spoke about the need to create more child-oriented films. He said, "One thing India lacks is children's films. There is a tendency in our books, written for children, for the author to consider himself wise and lecture children on how they should behave and what virtues they should develop. But there are better, more subtle ways to point out a moral or draw a lesson. Good children's films can be a powerful instrument in developing a child, and I hope the Indian film industry will think of this." Subsequently, in 1955, the Indian government created the Children's Film Society of India, an independent body responsible for producing, exhibiting, and distributing films for children. According to one paper, by 2020, the Society had produced about 275 feature films, shorts, and documentaries in multiple languages. Over time, critics of the Children's Film Society said that its films were too preachy, catered too heavily toward middle-class audiences, and had terrible distribution rates, reaching only 0.6% of children and adolescents, especially those who lived in villages or in the countryside. Although the Children's Film Society had a rocky history, it encouraged the production of more child-oriented films in the 1970s and 80s. These films were fun for the whole family, and hence became known as family entertainment. Like traditional masala or commercial Bollywood, these films contained song and dance numbers and parallel storylines, appealing to audiences' desire for romance, comedy, and drama all in one film. But these films were also cleaner than usual, meaning they included more wholesome stories and little to no racy material. Preliminary research suggests that Indian children enjoy family films. But what does that really mean? There's no formal definition for family film either. By 1952, the Indian Censor Board had created 4 rating certificates. Films certified U or UA for Universal were considered appropriate for children under age 12, while those certified A for adult and S for specialized were not considered appropriate for children. And because India produces so many films every year, naturally, more and more films have been certified universal when they might not be suitable for children after all. Interestingly, in February 2021, the Times of India reported that OTT platforms like Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Disney Plus Hotstar would begin certifying its films and shows into subcategories of UA by age, such as media appropriate for children aged 7 and above, 13 and above, and 16 and above, which I think is helpful for filtering out elements unsuitable for kids, but not for intentionally including elements for kids. I'll explain what I mean in a few minutes. Universal films can belong to any genre, including romance, comedy, action, sports, coming-of-age, science fiction, dramas, and thrillers. And they often contain some amount of violence, sensuality, or problematic messages related to gender. So it's possible that children benefit from the wide swath of films in the universal category. But what are they really learning from these films?
अब आदत डालिए प्रेम भैया, अब लाइफ लॉन्ग इन्हें ही आपको खिलाना पिलाना है, क्यों जी? मैं तो बच्ची रहा हूँ, धमका रहा हूँ तुम्हें, लेकिन सिर्फ इसलिए, क्योंकि मैं तुमसे बहुत प्यार करता हूँ, और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि तुम सिर्फ मेरे लिए बनाई गई हो, सिर्फ मेरे लिए.
मुझे माफ कर दो, मुझे माफ कर दो.
Psychology research from around the world finds that children who observe violence on screen tend to mimic that behavior in real life, or have increased anxiety, bad dreams, and social withdrawal as a result. A European study from 2010 found that children aged 9 to 16 feel bothered when they see adult content online. Indian children who watch cartoons that feature characters stereotyped based on gender tend to believe that boys are strong, powerful, and unemotional, while girls are helpless, obedient, and cry a lot. To summarize, Indians might instinctively know what a family film or a children's film is, but not defining them clearly can lead to children seeing media that's not right for them. Moreover, good films intended for children can get overlooked because they're surrounded by so much universal content. So let's discuss what a children's film really is. Family films are meant to appeal to everyone, but children's interests are often ignored and misunderstood in the process. However, if we examine family films through a child lens, 3 subcategories emerge, and each subcategory builds on the last. Child-safe films omit racy, violent material so as to protect children from seeing content that's too hard to process. Mainstream commercial masala films often qualify and contain a blend of action, romance, and drama, as well as catchy dance numbers. Children likely enjoy these films for various reasons, but would benefit from adults explaining the social messages embedded throughout, such as those related to gender, class, and religion. Child-friendly films go one step further to actively include elements that directly appeal to children, like bright colors, animals, animation, happy songs, magic, and children themselves. But the children in these films are typically side characters, while the adults drive the plot forward. For example, Masoom is the story of an illegitimate child born to a married man after the man cheats on his wife. Despite the film's name, which means innocent, the film isn't really about the boy, Rahul, but rather the conflict between DK and Indu. The mere knowledge that Rahul exists is enough to drive the plot forward. DK and Indu must face the fact that their marriage is imperfect and have to decide whether it's worth staying together. Rahul's innocence ultimately convinces Indu to open her heart to him and stay with her husband. So, in my opinion, while Masoom features children, that's not enough to categorize it as a true children's film. In contrast, child-centered films feature children as the main characters, actively driving the plot forward as they pursue their aspirations, face obstacles, and learn lessons along the way. For example, the film Taare Zameen is squarely about Ishan, a boy who struggles with dyslexia and is misunderstood and rejected by his family and teachers. The film's cinematography makes it clear that Ishan is the main character. He takes up the most screen time of any character. The camera lingers on Ishan's face to capture his expressions, and it gravitates toward whatever Ishan is looking at, like animals, shiny objects, or art supplies. At one point, when Ishan's father is yelling at him, the camera is close to the ground, at a child's height, to show the audience what Ishan is seeing, which is a scary version of his father. Indian scholars seem to agree that a true children's film captures a child's perspective and treats it with respect and intelligence. So whenever we say children's films in India, I believe we really mean child-centric films. This is currently the smallest subcategory of family films, and I think it's time we expanded it. Some of the most successful Bollywood films of all time have been child-centered. According to the Indian box office, the most successful Bollywood film ever was Dangal, which is a coming-of-age story featuring two sisters who train to be professional wrestlers with their father, during which the girls discover who they really are. Secret Superstar was number 4 on the list of most successful Bollywood films. It tells the story of Insia, a talented singer who writes beautiful songs and wants to share them with the world, but needs to hide her identity online so her father doesn't find out. Clearly, child-centered films resonate with a lot of us, and they do well financially.
People who are actually in the business should actually be seeing what kind of analysis and engagements that are actually coming about from academics, because then they might have some perspective how to make things more human-centric and make content which is more nuanced and more sensitive and more inclusive.
I hope that by defining the 3 types of family films, filmmakers will be encouraged to make more films with children at the heart. And I'll talk more about this in part 2 of this series. See you soon.